Hey, good evening, everybody. Whether you're on the East Coast, the West Coast, or Central USA, or on the other side of the world, I know we've got some people on the other side there. Homer is on tonight. And welcome to the Hounds of Business Beyond Lead Gen community ecosystem that creates opportunities show tonight. I'm stepping in for Mike Asherbranner, the King Hound. He is on his anniversary tonight with his wife. Stephanie, and celebrating 20 years. So I'm Dr. Jeffrey E. Berger, and today we're going to be talking about something that's revolutionizing how successful entrepreneurs build their businesses. And we're going to go beyond that lead generation to explore community ecosystems that create opportunities. Traditional marketing simply can't really touch. So before I bring on my special guest today, I'm going to actually do a recognition. We're going to give some recognitions and shout outs to some of our sponsors. And this here is the infamous brand face icons, Tonya Everhart and Michael Carr, and the redneck connector, Mr. King Hound himself, Michael Asherbranner, and also another happy 20th anniversary to him and his wife, Stephanie. And this slide here shows a lead drought, and this is an event that they are putting on why quality prospects aren't making it to your calendar. And this is an event where you'll learn the top 3 secrets to help you fill your calendar with prospects who understand your value and come ready to invest. So I will be providing the links because there's an upcoming on the 23rd and the 26th of this month. Then we have here Kevin Smith, founder of the and chief kindness chaser for Kindness Worldwide. And this was inspired by a random act of kindness on Good Friday morning in 2023. The vision of Kindness Worldwide is to create a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. Next, we have David Medansky. He is the health guy helping individuals go from feeling tired, embarrassed, and frustrated to being energetic, admired, to having vibrant health without breaking the bank. And you got to get his book here, Jaded Health. And I've got a copy here. You got to check it out. And it's really, really great. So next, this is me. Today, I'm a global ambassador, and I take finance first approach to embracing new ways to true health in the modern world. And I really am helping pioneer and future thinking entrepreneurs navigate today's emerging technologies like real estate tech, financial tech, educational tech, artificial intelligence, and metaverse, introducing breaking ground floor opportunities for portfolio diversification, focusing on digital real world assets. And for those that are interested, you can scan the QR code to attend one of my upcoming webinars, or actually schedule a call. I'll provide those links in the comments, depending on the social media platform that you're on. So with that, before I bring up my guests, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Are you looking to grow your network and your net worth with other high-level, heart-centered professionals? Then grab a seat and your favorite beverage and join Mike Asherbranner, the Redneck Connector. It's time for the Hounds of Business Community Happy Hour.
Okay, we are back, and here are tonight's guests, and we have Julie Johnson, and we're going to be talking about that inner foundation. And then we have our infamous networking master, Phil Harrington, and then followed by Julie, Janice. I told these guys before the show, I got to get the J's together. Janice Debo, who is the relationship architect. So before we dive into the questions, I'm going to have each of you just introduce yourself and do a quick 2-sentence about who you are. Julie, you go first.
All right. Hi, I'm Julie Johnson. So my background is it's hybrid. I work a little bit in the wellness world as a mind body professional with yoga and mostly somatic coaching. And then I also have a giant background in digital health innovation, usability, and accessibility. And I blend those two together to kind of help us move through kind of building some healthy human-centered tech as we develop ourselves, as we have all these apps and AI coming through the roof. So I do that work with Integrate Trauma Informed Network, which is my own platform, that also has its own app. So I'll talk more about that work here in a
Awesome.
bit.
Awesome. The yoga gal with AI. Phil, go next.
Hey, yeah, I'm Phil the Connector, Phil Harrington, otherwise known as Phil the Connector. I come from sales. I'm out here in Boise, Idaho. It is required to have a beard when you come out here. Just kidding. But my claim to fame is I've done over 5,000 one-to-ones. We'll talk about later in the last 8 years, and now I'm building a community.
Awesome. Thanks, Phil. Janice.
I'm Janice Debo. I do personal development, training, and coaching. I'm also a published author of a book called Courage, Confidence, and Connections Journal. And I help empower people to be their true selves and build relationships. I've got quite a few connections as well. I don't think I can get close to Phil on those one-to-ones, but anyway, we're all here as a team, and welcome everybody.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, what we're going to do is we are going to start tonight with Janice, and oh my gosh, Julie, here I go again. Oh my gosh, this is going to be my demon for tonight. So Julie, we're going to start out with that. Let's deep dive right into the gate, right out of the gate here. So Julie, I wanted to start with something personal, if I may, and you talk about rewiring our inner story. So tell us about a moment when you realized that your own internal narrative was actually sabotaging your ability to build authentic connections. And what was that wake-up call for you?
Yeah, so my background really, when it comes to kind of that mind-body part of my own journey, has been, through, we call it, would be like eating disorder recovery. My relationship with food was pretty fraught growing up. It was like something you controlled. Don't eat, you don't eat that. You don't eat that. You count calories here, 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 and here. And for me, I had to. What was behind that behavior was a lot of my work I did in my teens and 20s. Up until like my early 30s, of learning like what was behind all of that behavior. And for me, a lot of it was rooted in, complex trauma and having some hard family relationships that was coming out as what my old nutritionist would call an eating response with the nervous system, right? So a lot of my work has been, how do I engage understanding that I'm worthy of nourishment instead of dieting or restricting food from me, right? And that's where yoga came in. That's where a lot of that mind body profession, I started to really go down the yoga and we call it somatics, which would be like nervous system exploration, understanding how the nervous system impacts our health and well-being, which I know you're well aware of because of the gut brain axis. So,
right.
that's the baseline work, for me, is learning to understand my nervous system and understand how food impacts my nervous system, and how things like yoga and movement, breath work can help me, go from, surviving to thriving.
Absolutely. So no, that's great. And we talk about the body temple. And we've got one body temple, and we need to be the CEOs of our own body temple and really treat it the way it's supposed to be treated. And we each have those responsibilities. And so the second thing is the science behind connection. And you have this beautiful phrase about transforming self-sabotage into self-understanding. So for somebody who's out there watching tonight, or even in the replay, because I'm going to encourage them to respond to the replay as well, who knows that they're holding themselves back from genuine networking. Maybe they're afraid to really of rejection or fear of awkward reaching out. Because I know I was there at one point. What actually happens in their nervous system?
Yeah, so I think that might be, just FYI to Michelle, Michelle Ward, who does self-sabotage work. That might have been Michelle. We were on a thing last time, so just make sure we give Michelle that. That might have been Michelle Ward's self-sabotage work. Great coach in the Hounds of Business. But from my point of view, is the more of the nervous system and our we call it polyvagal theory, which is by Stephen Porges. And I really love studying the work of Stephen Porges and his work around the nervous system, because it gives us a framework. It's not prescriptive, but it can give us a lens about what's happening inside of ourselves, right? And I love what he does, because when it comes to like connecting, there's this place within polyvagal theory. On one side, I do it through like energy levels. On one side, if you've had a lot of maybe relational trauma, it doesn't have to be trauma, but just toxic situations, you might be more on a anxious level, which means you're high energy. And then on the other end, you might be low energy or avoidant. Okay. But it's all kind of anxiety based, you know, depending on whether you're avoidant, shut down, or really anxious. But then there's this piece in between called social engagement. And this is really important on LinkedIn. This is why I love talking about this on LinkedIn. And some of those, you know, behaviors that we have in terms of reaching out to people can be rooted in whether it can be the spectrum of trauma from just a toxic situation, or, you know, as complex PTSD, which is what I had and could continue to work through in my own way, you know. And, you know, being aware of that framework can really help us begin to look at ourselves, give ourselves that map inside and be like, is the reason I'm avoiding somebody possibly because there's something about a fear of rejection? You know, is there a fear of not enough? You know, am I not enough? Is there not enough? You know, so I think I really like that lens, because it really helps us understand, like, well, when I do reach out to somebody, how do I feel in my body? What's happening inside of me? You know, and be like, which side of the spectrum am I on? And, you know, if you go deeper and more polyvagal work, you can really learn to notice how your behaviors and your body sensations are framing your LinkedIn behaviors.
Well, what's amazing is that, you know, our body temple has amazing systems. You talk about the nervous system. I talk about the vagus nerve when it comes to the microbiome, the gut, brain, heart axis, and they each have these unique attributes. And I encourage people to go out there and learn these systems so you can become educated, so you know when you are triggered, what is that, how is that impacting you, and what do you need to do to understand it, why is it happening, and what can you do rather than react, but take a step back and evaluate, which is something big that I learned in my journey. So let's talk about a practical transformation here. When you know, give us an example of something that, you know, one of the audience or many of the audience members can use today. You know, so if I'm getting ready to attend a networking event or jump into like a community call, or even going out to an event, you know, physically going to a location, you know, what's one thing I can do internally to really show up authentically instead of in that desperate, oh, please like me energy?
Yeah. You know, so one thing I like to do is, you know, I think it's hard you can't get to that prefrontal cortex until we address what's happening in the body, right? So one thing I like to do, and it's really common, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this, but if you're like new and you're like, Julie, I've never done this before, you know, one thing I like to do that's really easy just to help us sort of engage the body is two things: either rhythmic tapping, you know, we call it butterfly tapping. A lot of people have probably seen this somewhere on Calm or the Headspace app or something like that. Like, it's really common. Yeah. Or a tap, you know, or even if you do EFT, you know, you can do some different, EFT, some different tapping and things like that. So those are all ways that you can access the body. And then one thing I like to do is just after tapping, just kind of hold at heart center and be like, what is it that I need right now? Right. And that just start to do that internal, what is it that you need? And, you know, and then it maybe sometimes like I like to go through the senses. Like when I go into a situation, it's like, do I need to have some water near me? You know, like I even have water near me because I was like, I don't want to have to keep talking about water tonight. You know, just thinking through like your five senses, and then when you're in there and you start to notice maybe even maybe clammy hands or you're sweating, you know, start to just realize. I like to do like the five senses. I like to go through the five senses and do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm sure people have heard about this. These are really common mindfulness senses where you look for 5 things around you and you name them to yourself, you know. And then once you kind of get to those senses, then you can ask yourself from moment to moment, what is it that I need? Maybe it's an affirmation. May I remember that I'm enough? Or maybe it's just, I need some water. So it can be from physical.
And that's okay too.
Or a reminder, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a force of energy, the water that we have. So, all right, we're coming up here to the last like couple of seconds here. So, for those who are familiar with Mike's show here, he loves audience engagement. So here's the time for audience engagement, and we hope that you'll engage. So Julie, before we move on, I want our community to share with us in the comments, so we can help each other out in identifying these patterns, because that's what we're about. We're about helping each other, providing value to share and learn from each other. But in the comments, tell us, what's one internal story you tell yourself that might be keeping you from building genuine business relationships?
Actually, I was just talking to my friend about this today. A story I tell myself is that the small, like little, like connections may not matter to big people. So like, those, or the small things I do, those little small favors I do, don't actually matter, even though I'm using my skills. And that's not true. Like every interaction, every little time I have an opportunity to show the skills, things like this, these shows are all an opportunity for you to connect authentically with your talents and show up to the world. So.
Awesome. And what is that? Mike Asherbranner is on here. He's supposed to be at his anniversary. I'm gonna go slap him. Hey Mike, how do you like my hat? It's not like yours, but it's like, oh my gosh, I found one. Okay, so thank you so much, Julie. And I will be bringing you back up a little bit later. Now we're going to move on to Phil. All right,
hey.
Phil. Thanks for coming up on the stage here, and we're gonna start out, as the networking master. The slave here is going to bow to you on the 5,000 meeting revelation. So 5,000 one-on-one meetings since 2018. That just blows my mind, and it's extraordinary. So, but here's what I really want to know, and I think the audience wants to know too, is tell me about a meeting number 100 versus meeting number 4,000, and how you personally changed as a person by then, and how did that change the quality of your connections?
That's a great question. So I would say we'll start with the first 100 meetings or even 500 meetings. I tell this story. I did it all wrong because I was selling websites at the time, but I also was in a multi-level marketing company. So I would use that opportunity to see if they need a website. And then also, do you want to look at this presentation real quick? Right. And so I was pitch slapping. Probably I'm pretty thick-headed. So I probably was doing that for the first 3,000 one-to-ones until it really sunk in that all I was doing is handing out digital business cards. Or actually, we started before Zoom happened. So I was actually at coffee shops and I was kind of burning my bridges. Right.
Yeah.
So now fast forward, I'm going to go to what you said, the 4,000. Now I do more. When I do a one-to-one, it's all about them. Even if they talk the entire time, I'm okay with that, because we'll have another meeting where I get to talk and now they're all ears to what I have.
Exactly. And they're sharing their stories, so you can grab that information and make your own proper assessment on what you can do and provide for them in what they're sharing with you and what they want to do. So, and I'm gonna we talk about the anti-pitch philosophy, and you talk about the pitch slap, which we've heard many times.
Sure.
And but bring that into the 40 years that you've done cold calling, telemarketing, and all of those different forms of reaching out. What was the moment, that actual moment, if you can recall, that you realized that traditional lead generation was actually working against you, and what made you completely flip your approach?
Yeah, so God knows he has to throw things right in front of my face or I won't do them. So for 33 years of my 40 years, I was all cold calling because I never knew that business
Yeah.
networking existed. Right. So I just did my thing and I just learned by tapes and I learned by books and all that type of stuff. And then when I got introduced to BNI in 2018, I'm like, holy crud, everyone will do a one-to-one. That's kind of why I went nuts with it because I was a cold caller by nature. So
Yeah.
numbers didn't bother me at all. Earlier, Julie was talking about they're afraid to reach out and all that stuff.
Mhm.
I disconnect myself from the feeling whenever I'm doing prospecting because I've learned over the years this is just prospecting. It doesn't affect. But it used to bother me when someone say a mean thing or opt out of my list, or it used to emotionally bother me. But anyways, I got off track a little bit. I forgot where I was at. I'm sorry.
No, this is the anti-pitch philosophy. So,
Yes.
what was that moment that you
Oh,
realized the traditional lead generation was actually working against you specifically?
so I think I noticed that people were avoiding doing one-to-ones with me. And I would get introduced to people and they would not do a one-to-one with me. So it made me start to think, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Let me think more about what's happening. And when we
Yeah.
created the connector community, I was like, oh, I've been throwing out all the digital business cards, but I didn't go back and meet all the and like deepen the relationships. And so now I figured out how to do that. So I would say that transition unfortunately happened about 2 years ago.
Well,
So
that I mean,
mhm,
at least it happened. As I say, it's better late than never. And
right.
you can just grow from there, which has been amazing. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different approaches, and they've really changed. And it's like when I talk about what I do, it's like today we're in a different world, and we, the technologies that are out there that you provide through your connection program is that we're at a point where we're in a paradigm shift, and there's time to learn, there's time to change, just like those who got involved with Microsoft, Apple, Netflix, and Amazon decades ago with their technologies. That's in the past. We're all with these blockchain technologies and the AI, the metaverse, all these types of things, and approaches helping businesses grow from using those technologies, which you are very, very on top of, which is amazing. So the compound connection strategy. Let's dive into this. I love the concept of relationships that compound over time, and it's that know, like, trust that we talk about. And
Mhm.
can you walk us through a real example without naming names, or you can
Sure.
do a first name if you want,
Sure.
of how one authentic connection from years ago has continued to create opportunities for you? And then how does that compare to a traditional lead that converts once and then you never hear from them again?
Wow. Yeah. So back to my cold calling days, every month you started over, right? And because I didn't stay in contact with them on a regular basis or even ask for referrals, how dumb is that? I never got any referrals. So that's the cold calling days. Early on, I met a gentleman here in Boise. His name was Franklin, and he really understands networking. And I traced back one of my connections 16 generations back from where he introduced me to somebody
Wow.
because I kept following the chain thing I've never done in the past, but now following that chain, you can end up in amazing places. So that's why we always say you're one connection away because you don't know where that connection is going to take you. And I used to judge people based on what they did, if I wanted to go do that one-to-one or not. And now not at all. I meet anybody and everybody because you never know.
Right. No, that's very, very true. I want to give, while we're talking here real quick before I go to the to the engagement of the audience here. Homer's on from the other side of the world. We've got April Wyatt is on board, Susanna Dawn, and let's see. Actually, Mike is on. Give a shout to Jake Title. Thanks for coming on, Jake. And Janice Debo is out there in the talking section out there as well. She's all over the place. And so let's get to the calendar filling secret. This will be the last question before we move
Okay.
to audience engagement. You talk about filling calendars with promising appointments, and we all want that. don't we? So, for the entrepreneur watching who's struggling to get quality meetings, what's the difference between how you approach someone for a one-on-one versus how most people try to get business from someone?
Well, for now that my network is so large, I actually do one-to-many meetings now, and I do the one-to-ones once they become clients, right? But if I was to say the approach that we took here, we have a way of getting into people's networks. So it's a small change. Imagine if you were in touch with everybody you've ever done a one-to-one with. They stay well. You can stay in their inbox if you simply ask for certain industries to be introduced to. So if
Yeah.
you're only asking for introductions, they're happy to help. So you stay in their inbox, and we're getting a 60% open rate now just by simply
Wow.
asking for introductions. And check this out, it's like crazy. We're going to get over 800 introductions this year.
That's amazing.
And so now the calendar gets filled with people that have been referred over. And so
Right.
now that trust factor is way high. All of my sales are now from referrals.
That's incredible. And yeah, I believe that referrals are the best form of introductions, because we're so many of us are tired of the cold outreaches. And however, that's still, it's still there. But this new revelation of these um, referral connections, I'm referring you to this person because I know this person and we've done business, we've talked together, so there's a relationship that's already started during that know, like, trust factor. So which Mike talks about often. So we're coming to that audience engagement portion here. So Phil, let's get our community involved here. Drop in the comments, for those of you who are out there, drop in the comments the best networking advice you've ever received, or tell us about one time when an authentic connection surprised you with an unexpected opportunity. And Phil will respond to those comments in the question. But Phil, why don't you answer that for our community as they're entering in their sharing their views there?
So like one that was, you mean a connection that was surprising where it led to?
Yeah.
Okay. So actually Jake's on here. I got introduced to Jake just because his title said super connector, by somebody named Colleen, I apologize. And then, no, Nelly, I'm so sorry. My little one's here. But anyways, that turned into a huge opportunity. We're bringing his group into our group, and we're doing some big things together. But just that one introduction, I think, is going to change the way we're going to do our business. And it was all because he was out there saying he's a super connector, and then she connected us. So it wasn't even someone that she knew. So,
well, that's okay too.
Yeah.
And when you see people that are in your network, I mean, yeah, they connect with you. You may not have talked with them yet, but the plan is to, at some point, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I can introduce you to so-and-so who came into my network, and maybe you can create some synergistic energies from that introduction. So,
yeah,
which is awesome. Well, great. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I am going to bring Janice Debo on here. And I'm going to put you in the green room and then bring you all back on afterwards here. And let me just change this real quick here so we can get Janice's information down in the scrolling banner. As most of you have seen, that's where you can reach out to our guests tonight and, getting in touch with them. So, Janice, the relationship architect, you are that architect who is building those relationships, and you've really let's touch on that. Phil did the 5,000 interviews, and you do the 5,000 lives story. So you've touched nearly 5,000 lives, through your actual work as a coach, and that's not just impressive. That's not just impressive. It's a movement. I mean, that's just incredible. And tell us about someone whose life you impacted early in your journey, who then became a catalyst for opportunities you never could have imagined. And how did that ripple effect work for you and that individual?
Well, that would be my first client who turned out to be my guinea pig. Her name was Jennifer. Yes, she was transitioning from an office job, like an office manager job,
Yep.
into sales for a pretty big name insurance company, and of course was scared to death. We met at a networking group that I was a part of, and she was joining. And so I was told by my coach and the gentleman that got me started to just go ahead and find a guinea pig. If you have to give it away, if the first one is okay.
Yeah.
So I offered her free coaching for, I don't know how many months I did it, to help her transition from the mindset of being in an office all the time to being out knocking on doors. Well, Phil was talking about cold calling. Well, I've been down that road too. It's not it's not a pretty road. It's really not. I did not like cold calling. I love building relationships, but I did not like cold calling. Who does, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so Jennifer was like a spokesperson for me. She bragged about the help I was giving her and gave testimonials in groups and such. So she was a major force because she had, and I even went on a call with her one time. It was fun. A very unique company that she was trying to break ground with and get into. Yeah, that was
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, I mean, and you always have those. I think I've talked to many people who have that first, second, or third, maybe even the third introductions that have been that catalyst to really helping you get your business off the ground and moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is awesome. So you have like a 2-decade evolution in 20 years as an entrepreneur. You've seen it all. I know we've talked offline before, and you've been on my show. I've been on your show, and the rise of social media, digital marketing, AI. But you've stayed focused on human connection, and that's what this is about. The community ecosystem, human connection. What do you see happening to businesses that chose artificial engagement over authentic relationships, and what are they missing?
You can't put a value on human connection and knowing people personally. I don't know much about the AI generation stuff. I do use a little bit of it for some things. However, when it comes to relationships, you can't build it artificially. You only have to
Right.
build it genuinely.
Yeah.
And even though we're on virtual things all the time, that still, a friend of mine and a business associate said not long ago, we were talking about Zoom and this, that, and the other. He said, well, truly, I feel more connected when I'm on a phone call with somebody because I'm not distracted by watching the video. And I thought about that and I said, you're right. You can connect better on a phone call than with a camera staring you in the face. But I appreciate everybody being here. So
Awesome. No, that's great. Yeah, I mean, it's and you mentioned drop AI earlier.
mm-hmm.
This is all new, and I think it's more of an era, a time period here where we're learning to adjust and learning to these changes of these new technologies, and what can we do to maximize it to the best of our ability, but also not be totally AI driven, because I would never want that. I love talking with people. I love meeting people and really building that relationship, and it really doing deep dives with them, because that's what it's all about. How can we connect? How can we help each other? So, you talk about that so personal touch, and this is a philosophy of yours, and you're known for creating personalized programs, which we've talked about before, and that resonate with each of your clients' unique aspirations. So you really do a deep dive with your clients. And in a world where everyone's trying to scale up with with automation and mass marketing, why do you believe personalization is really actually your competitive advantage to other approaches out there?
Well, a little motto that I've developed is I work with people, not processes. And even though sending somebody a video, I've been coached that way. And yet I definitely prefer that one-on-one
Mm,
custom tailor, because none of us are alike, Jeff. None of us.
right.
None of us work the same, communicate the same, and I need to help people connect with other people. So in doing that, it's important that I stay involved and find out what their needs are. And we all want to do that with our clients. But there's a lot of, I think I kid about there's being a coach under every rock. Well, there are a lot of coaches out there. And there are a lot of processes and programs. So I like to develop a not a program, but a connection and a real way of helping my client. And I can't if I don't know them and what they're dealing with. Nobody deals the same way. Nobody communicates the same way.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, it's vital to me to, and yes, I think it does set me apart. I had trouble explaining that many times though.
No, that's great. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I'm sure that they're definitely going, the audience is going to learn from that as well. And so now it's time for that audience participation that I want those individuals who are out there all over the world here to engage and share with Janice. This is the question. I want our viewers to get real value here. So in the comments, share one specific way you've personalized your approach with a client or community member that created a deeper connection. And Janice might just feature some of your story in your next program if you want to talk about that real quick in regards. But the audience out there, share that personalized, that specific way you've personalized your approach with a client or a community member that created that deeper connection. And that's the key word there, or key words, deeper connection.
Now, are you asking me or for them?
Well, I'm asking you to expand on that
Oh,
while
got
people
it.
while people are entering
Right.
their comments. So
Got
to
it.
share, because what's going to happen is that as these individuals enter that information in, you're going to go back and respond to them
You
and
got it.
see, what
Okay.
what you guys can exchange.
Sounds great. Well, I do that with every client, and I've worked with clients everything from excavation company to real estate to mortgage to photographers. And my photographer client was wonderful. She really grew her business working with me. And as it turned out, she had to let me go because she couldn't take on any more business.
Mm.
She was so busy. I helped her build her business pretty significantly. So she had to put something aside, and we still stay in touch. She does my headshots and things, but yeah, I got her so busy by introducing her to people and helping her understand how to connect and grow her business. I hope that helps.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it does. It really does. So, what we're going to do here. So, let me know in the comments with a just enter in value if you're getting value from our guests tonight, and we're gonna step into the what's called the integration segment. All right, and we're gonna start out with the Trinity question here, where I want all three of you to weigh in on this. And if someone watching right now has been, relying on those mass emails, social media ads, and traditional lead generation, and they want to transition building genuine community ecosystems, what's the first step? So, Julie, I'm going to have you start from that internal work perspective.
I think it's going back to, you know, again, moving into, well, not how do I feel about it, but what, how is my nervous system responding to that, that call? Okay. Because sometimes doing things that are new, we haven't done, can increase our, going between one of those two spectrums, right? Like, oh, it's new.
Sure.
I haven't done it before. Our trauma shows up all the time in our business, every single day, all the time. And so it does. And our attachment systems come all the time, right? So this is an attachment piece, right? So understanding how we're responding to doing something new, and where am I in my do I feel avoidant to it, or do I feel like I want to go do like 5, and do something within your capacity when you start, right? Maybe start with like
Right.
one person that feels safe enough to reach out to that might be in a community that you're in that's of interest to you.
Absolutely. So Phil, I want you to, building on what Julie said, with regards to, a relationship perspective.
And what part am I answering?
So give me
Sorry.
give me 3 points from Julie, what you just said, because I want Phil to expand on, I have you really addressing that internal work mechanism, and then taking that to the next step to, from a relationships perspective, because you're the connector and you're building those relationships.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first thing I said was, notice how it makes you feel inside. Notice what that feeling is. And then second would be like, think of something that you're interested in, in terms of business, or something that can help you solve your problem, and then find somebody you feel, I would say safe enough with to reach out to, that's in a community or a head of community that you can connect with. Start with one.
There you go.
Yeah, good. Okay. So good. So once you've nailed that and you do your one, then you, of course, if you do one, you can do 2 and you could do 3, right? And so as you build those, what I tell people is, think of yourself as a connector in your own world, right? So never say no to anyone if they ask you, do you know somebody that does blank? That way you stay in the middle of the conversation. I did this by accident, but I can tell you now how to speed that process up. So if you'll stay in the conversation, then you get branded through the entire thing. So like I said, when it started out early, I do text introductions after my one-to-ones, and I would put at the bottom Phil Harrington, right? Then it evolved to Phil the Connector, and so on and so forth. But I get that branding in there. So now we're all the way forward to, let's stay in contact with them by email every time you do a one-to-one, so that all this effort you put out to do your one-to-ones doesn't go to waste. Right? Because there's no way someone can get to know you, especially like you're talking about being nervous. They might be nervous on that first call. There's no way they're going to get to know you on that first call. So if you stay in contact, I've had people send me referrals 2 years later. So
yeah. So Janice, I want you to take it to the next level here, from a community integration standpoint.
Okay. I will weigh in on what they said as being really awesome. One of the most important things you can do, because out of bad experiences come good connections eventually. And I have visited multiple groups, but you've got to feel the alignment for yourself. Just because your friend Joe or Phil or Julie, just because somebody else feels comfortable there doesn't mean you have to commit and that you're going to feel comfortable there. You've got to, Julie did weigh in on that, but you go to several groups. Get to know the groups and what they stand for. I have tried to fit into to groups that I was totally out of alignment, and the frustration level goes up significantly. You cannot, don't force it. You've heard the square peg in a round hole and vice versa. Don't force it. If you don't feel comfortable, go somewhere else. And another thing, I was making notes here. I want to bounce off of something Phil said in his one-on-one portion here, and that is to show more interest in the person you're talking to. That is a philosophy I live by. I want to get to know them, and pitch slapping is one term. I call it ego too. It's like, I'm going to tell you all about me and you're going to love me, and I don't even ask you one question. I can tell you many conversations I've had where I had a conversation with someone and they didn't ask me one question. be it personal. And let me throw this out there: if you're in the dating world and you don't show interest in the other person, they don't care. They don't care, you know. And dating is a lot like networking. I think somebody said that earlier. It you know, it can go a lot of different directions.
Hey, I'd like to throw in there real quick, and
Sure.
sorry, Jeff. Use the Ford method. I think we've all heard it, but it's easy to keep in your mind. If you don't know what to ask somebody, ask them family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. You have so much conversation there just in those four letters. So just keep that in mind. If you get nervous, ask one of those.
No, that's great. And I want to just you know, add on to what the three of you said, which was brilliant. And you know, I'm in some networking groups, and I'm like, oh my God, this is way above my head, and I don't fit here. But then I'm like, wait, that's a trigger. So I stepped back. I said, you know, I need to step up for my own sake, and I need to, you know, come to the plate. And so this one individual was talking about what he does and what he's, you know, who he is, his perfect client is. And I'm like, oh my God, that just went over my bald head. So, but here's the thing is that at that point, I just said, wait a minute, I just need to take it in. And within 3 hours, I was on another call with somebody else. And I'm like, oh my God, person A that I talked to, I can introduce to you right now. And it just kind of gelled. So I'm learning that, and it's all about a learning process. You're changing the way that we're making connections and building those relationships. So that was pretty cool. So the biggest mistake, I'm going to address this with Phil here. What's the biggest mistake you see people make when they try to do networking or build community connections?
They join groups for the list. And you'll even hear them say, how many members do you have? Right. They're looking to go through as fast as possible and get all those one-time, I call low-hanging fruit, those accidental sales, right? And they're there. So it is a model that you can do, but it's not effective, right? I had one gal, she called everybody in my group. She made 12 sales, and then she's like, okay, I'm going to cancel because it's time to move on to the next group. And I'm like, you just got started. I mean, wow, all those people probably want to give you referrals, especially if they became your customers. Like you're missing the boat here. So I think a lot of people are looking at right now, because after COVID, we all can now do 3 times more. So we now think we should do 3 times more. It used to be that we drove to an appointment, we had a coffee with somebody, we might be able to get 3 or 4 one-to-ones in a day. But now, since we Zoom, we can do 8 to 12 meetings a day, and some people are doing that, and they're burning out because they have to get on to the next call as fast as possible because someone might be interested in their product. So I think that slow down. You only need about 15 to 20 good strategic partners that are going to feed your business for a lifetime. But if you don't take the time to build that relationship, which takes 50 hours, by the way, guys, 50 hours to build a deep relationship. So if you're doing half an hour meetings, that's 100 meetings you need to do with that person. So think about that. If you hit it off with somebody, schedule another one-to-one. Keep that process going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. So I want, so we talk about, I'm sure many people have heard about the compound effect, and this is going to be a compound effect question. And so Janice, you mentioned, we talked about that ripple effects, and Phil, you talked about compound connections, and Julie, you focus on internal transformation and creating external results. So how do these 3 concepts work together to create what we're calling that community ecosystems that we're, you know, trying to share value around? And I'll let Julie go first, and then Phil, and then Janice.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you start to, really work through like what we call like I call this like a nervous system informed lens, the more that we can learn to, we call it widen our social engagement, away from just avoidant or like, getting all those coffees, like Coach Phil was saying, doing like 20 coffees in a day or whatever. That's also a stress response, doing things within our capacity is what transforms. Our capacity is going to be different depending on our life experiences and what's happening. But when we can do community and build our own ecosystems with our own nervous system capacities, we can transform and do so many things. My capacity might be different than Phil's capacity or Janice's capacity or yours. But when we're doing things within our capacity, we can reach our vitality, and we can see other people and start to do the things that that Janice was saying about listening in and talking and really paying attention to other people. Because I'm not just, when we say self inner work, sometimes we can be so inner work oriented that we forget we're not seeing other people. But because we're doing things outside of our capacity for community. So doing things within our own capacity is what gets transformation.
Excellent. Phil.
So was the question, how do you transform, or what's a transformation journey? Or
so how do these three concepts we talked about, so Janice mentioned about the ripple effects, you talked about the compound connections, and Julie focuses on the internal transformation, creating external results. So how do these three concepts work together to create what we're really calling community ecosystems?
Okay, I see. So, well, great. So what Julie's saying is work on your internal, and as you get more and more confident, then you do more and more one-to-ones. And then with what I'm saying is make sure you stay in contact with those people, because 2 years down the road, 6 months down the road, they now have something for you, and we make it really easy to buy from us, but we don't make it really easy to refer to us. So like, do you want an email introduction, a text introduction, or whatever? Like, I have a form that I send out to people, make it very simple for them to fill out. But my point is yes, work on your internal, of course, first, but always push your boundaries. If you're good with one-to-one a week, great. Then go to 2, then go to 3. I mean, really fully, you should be, if you don't have money, you should be at 20 one-to-ones a week. It's a lot of work, but that's okay. You need to do it.
Yeah, no,
You'll also get better.
Absolutely. I say it's you're becoming comfortable in your uncomfortable zone, because that's where growth and innovation really thrive to getting you up to the next, level. Janice.
I'd like to throw the word I didn't mention earlier out, and that's authenticity. I think in all of this, you need to be authentic, be yourself. We can put on so many different masks, and I'm sure we're going to get some comments from our wonderful healers out there, and Julie, you're among them. It's so easy to put on a mask and be somebody you're not, and that doesn't help you making authentic connections. If you're not being yourself, then your connections are going to be superficial. And with what Phil said, he mentioned burnout earlier. I can't even imagine doing 100 one-to-ones a week. I'd just shoot myself, be done with it. It's just too much. And 20 even sounds like a lot, but you've got to gauge yourself. Nobody can tell you what you can handle and what you can do. And watch for signs of burnout, and that would be Julie's specialty there. We've all experienced it, because I went through it after I did all those years of sales and marketing. I hit the skids, and it wasn't pretty. Ben and Jerry were my best friends.
Yeah, burnout. I've been there twice before, so I know when to recognize it. So we're coming up to that major audience engagement as we're coming up to a close here. So, and this is really important for everyone. So in the comments right now, tell us about one community you are part of where you could show up more authentically and contribute more value. And as we wrap up and we go back to these comments, our guests will help you strategize how to make that shift, because that's what we're here for. It's beyond the lead generation, and we're going into that next generation of building the community ecosystems that really create opportunities from personalized referrals from that perspective. So let's do. We got. I didn't think we would have time for this. We're going to do a quick lightning round. One key takeaway from each of you. So this lightning round, one key takeaway our audience can implement this week. Julie, for internal preparation.
A takeaway. Oh, like I'm sharing a skill. Is that what
Yeah.
is that what I'm doing
Yes.
here? Okay. Yeah. So I think one thing you can do this week, is, begin to notice, what is happening around you, and then within you. Okay, as you are interacting on LinkedIn, Hounds of Business, even, start to really notice your senses. What's happening? How are my fingers feeling as I'm doing this networking, connecting with people, typing in, the chat and Hounds of Business, or making a thing. So start to just notice the five senses. Go through that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things I see, hear, smell as you're doing those works in Hounds of Business or LinkedIn.
Awesome. And Phil, for relationship building.
I think a lot of people, there's a lot of contacts. We always talk about this. That's in your phone. That's in your email. In your emails, you can actually download your contacts from Google. By the way, just use ChatGPT and it'll tell you how to do it. But you can go back to all those people, because I bet you that you might be in a different world now, or selling something different or doing something different, and they probably don't know what you do. So you already have a relationship there. So that's where you could go back and be a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, do all the LinkedIn stuff and everything. Maybe go to your phone and make sure everybody on there you're connected on LinkedIn. That's a great start, right? And you had a great conversation with them. So just start a conversation, and then just have a one-to-one and just be a person, and don't worry about selling anything. Just be a person.
Awesome. And then Janice, for community engagement.
Within the networking community,
Yeah.
reach out to somebody you've never met before and see what they're all about. Step out of that comfort zone. And I agree with Julie. You've got to see how you feel when you're doing all this. But step out of your comfort zone. And one thing I've done with clients is I've taken them to meetings before COVID hit and literally put them in uncomfortable situations. So they had to learn that they could do it. You don't know what you can do until you step out and try.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Great nuggets to share on the lightning round. So I want to do a final audience call to action. And before I wrap up here, so everyone watching, commit to one action in the comments. All right. And will you reach out to one person? And Janice just said this, authentically this week. And then join a community where you can contribute, work on your internal story, and then make your commitment publicly in our community on this, in the chat here with responsing. So here's what I want you to remember. All right. Every artificial engagement tactic, every mass email, every entertainment post that doesn't, really create real connection is actually taking you further away from the opportunities that are waiting for you inside authentic community ecosystems. So stop chasing those leads, all right, and start building those relationships, because it is about building those relationships, know, like, trust, and then the opportunities will most definitely find you. So I do want to, first of all, thank Mike Asher-Branner for allowing me to be the host tonight, and truly humbling to be here with all of you. I want to thank, Julie and Phil and Janice for providing so much value tonight. And I hope that our audience out there also received value. And we look forward to seeing your comments. And Mike will be back next week. And I thank you all, and have an awesome rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank y'all for stopping by. Be sure to follow, share, and like, and send me a message if you had fun today. Y'all come back now.